Welcome back to Headgasket Garage. It's been a while since the last video, but I'm finally working on the Granada, sitting right outside the gate here. Yesterday I was working on that C10 that was on my channel over a year ago. He sprung a leak on the front seal on the oil pan, the one that goes up underneath the timing chain cover. So I ended up disassembling the entire front of that engine. Had to order a new gasket set that is laying on the Fairlane right over there, and a new timing gear set because, well, it was still the stock one from 1984, and the teeth on that thing is plastic on the cam gear. So replaced that and got it all together last night. Took it for a little bit of a spin just to air out the cooling system and check it out, and it was just fine. Delivered it last night, and he is now on his way to Oslo for a Brad Paisley concert, actually. And he figured out that if he's going to a Brad Paisley concert, he's gotta have to drive the pickup. So he is on a 3 or 4 hour drive down there with a freshly fixed engine, and I am working on the Granada. Like I said, finally getting to it. So, back over here, we have turned the Fairlane into a storage facility. Like I said, this Chevy gasket's over there, rear tires for the tonneau, and the Granada parts. We have valve cover gaskets, intake gasket, head gaskets, oil pan gaskets, new water pump with gaskets, and of course the order note, invoice, I'm guessing. New oil pan is going off the Granada. It's from the old engine, the one that was in it when I got it. That thing was full of metal, so it's a good thing I did change the engine last year. That thing was full of metal particulates and bearing material. The engine that's in there now is coming out. I still have to take off the clutch cable and the engine mounts, then the hood. Then it's coming out because it's not stuck on anything anymore. I mean, the heads are in the garage here after having sent them to get skimmed. So they're in here. Of course, the intake and all the other stuff are in here too. So now I'm just going to pull that engine out and get to work on it. I figured out it's easier to do the oil pan with the engine out of the car. The crossmember on that thing is enormous and it's covering most of the oil pan. So, like I said, that thing's coming out. It is a new day here at JCR Garage. We have done a few things. I didn't get very far last night. Well, if you look up at the mountain there, you can see snow up on there. And, well, you can probably still see it on the Granada side. Now it's just dew, but it was frost. Because, well, from what I understand, we had about -6 degrees Celsius, which is, well, it's below freezing. So it gets a bit cold, and also with being October, it gets dark at around 7:30 at night. I didn't get rid of far. I packed up all the stuff around 6:30 last night. Just put the hood back on, put all the tools in here, put the hood back on, and tarped the engine while it was still dangling in the chains. So first thing this morning was to well, let it defrost a little bit, and then random cat, and then drop the engine down onto the ground so I could put the heads on. Also use the wire wheel brush on the drill to clean it up, and put the new head gaskets on. Then I have now bolted the heads down with 3 stages, which I'm missing 1 stage, and just have to wait a little bit. And then I'm gonna get the push rods back in, and then the rockers themselves, followed by the intake, and the valve covers over here. I'll have to clean those up a little bit, so I have a can of brake clean to get most of this milkshake out of this and off the bottom of
the intake. Probably can't see it that well now. Get all that fixed, and then I can get the engine back together. I'm not sure yet if I'm gonna put on the intake with the carb or just the intake, or if I'm not gonna put on any of them until I have the engine in the car. I'm not sure yet. Might be easier to just do the intake and then do the carb afterwards, because the carb is loose. I took it off when I was pulling it apart. Might actually open the carb and clean it out a little bit, so I don't have a good idle when it gets warm. And another thing, you see this little tap there, not a tap, but yeah, that's where a hose goes on. That goes from down here and up around here. I've changed places on the heads because this one was on the other side. Reason being, this thing, which you can tell, this is exactly where that hose goes. And I had serious trouble putting that on when I was putting the engine in the first place. So I decided when I first have the heads off, flip them around, and get it done that way. The heads are symmetrical. It doesn't matter if I put them on the wrong way around. So I bolted that on the other side. Of course, so I have to put the oil filter on. I'm not going to do that until I have the car engine in the car, because the exhaust on this side runs right over it. So I'm guessing it's going to be easier to guide everything in the right way with the filter off, so I can get the exhaust right around this right place. So I'm just going to torque up that head, or those heads, on the last stage now. Then clean up. Well, I'll just go over the push rods and get those in and get all that on. Then have a look at that intake. Here we are, end of day 3 actually. Didn't film much yesterday. I showed you that I'd gotten the heads on, and then the debacle came with getting everything else on. Like exhaust, I struggled for hours with the exhaust, and gave up after actually getting it on, sort of. Then I came back to it this morning, took the top bolt of the starter because I'd struggled a bit with that, and finished up the exhaust. Then I got the carburetor on and the distributor, hooked all of that up, and fan, radiator, all that. Got all the hoses and leads hooked up. Then I put oil in it, oil filter, fired it up, and listened to it. It really sounded crap. So then I had to take the valves and lash them, and I still have to do the timing because it's just rough right now. I haven't set it at all. I have to do the timing and get the hood shut and test it a bit. Now I'm hopefully done driving the Taunus around. And then I'm going to have to start looking at some winter tires. Those are mud and snow tires. There's not a stud in them, which I don't like. I prefer to have some proper studded winter tires. With an old car like this, rear wheel drive, it's gonna let go, and with just rubber, no studs, it's gonna spin like crazy. And it spins enough as it is with studs in it. So we'll get around to that later. But for now, this is just fine. Time to clean up some tools and get the toolbox and stuff back into the car where I usually keep it. So that right there was 2 days ago. Yesterday I decided to start with the tires. And well, I did it manually, so I got finished today. I'm working on putting the wheels on the car now. I have 3 of them on. Still need to put the hubcap on the last rear wheel. Then it is just the passenger side front wheel, and then it should be ready for the winter, finally. It's been sitting for over a month now with the busted head gasket, so it'll be good to finally get it back on the road. I've said I've been driving this Taunus around. It's straight 4 Pinto engine, 4-speed. It doesn't go that fast, so it doesn't have all that much performance either. It's like 115 horsepower in it. It's the wrong rear end, so the ratio is good for acceleration but not good for speed. And I took the Granada out after I shot that last part and winged it up through the gears, and it accelerates a lot better than the Taunus does, and it keeps on going. It has more speed too. It's just real fun to be back behind the wheel of that thing. So let's have a look at those wheels. These are the tools I've used. You see inflator, pry bar, sledgehammers, and an axe. This is going to probably get a lot of wind noise, but it's not going to matter that much. Old Volvo rims that used to hold the tires that I'm now using. My old tires, not a stud left in them that's, well, doing anything. And they are super old. Well, those tires are kind of super old too, but, you know, they're better. They have a lot more pattern to them, and studs that actually exist. That wheel still needs its hubcap, and then it's that wheel left. Then be back on the road.